"Peace is war taking a break," said the old one, pouring another finger of smoke-colored liquor into his cracked ceramic glass. His voice rasped like gravel under footpads, and his cybernetic eye blinked twice before recalibrating. "Never trust peace. It's just war stretching its limbs." The bar was dim, always was. The kind of place that never saw a sunrise but knew plenty about endings. It sat at the edge of the Vermis Ring, a neutral zone more in theory than enforcement, carved out after the last conflict that technically nobody won. Walls lined with faded war banners and outdated wanted posters, neon flickers dying like broken promises. The kind of place where soldiers came to forget and spies came to remember. Tonight, 3 sat around the corner table near the coolant vent, where it was just warm enough for drinks to stay fluid, but cool enough to hide a tremor in your claws. There was Kavith, the old one, scarred, scaled, and silent unless you got him talking about war. Then Brinax, a feathery avian tactician, still wore parts of his old officer's rigging like he was afraid someone would forget he'd once given orders. And then there was Mayun, the youngest, silicon-skinned and sharp-eyed, more curiosity than caution. He hadn't seen a battlefield, just data streams and briefings, but he'd heard the stories. About them. About humans. "They don't look like much," Mayun said, swirling his synth brew and trying to sound casual. "No claws, no venom, no exoskeletal armor, just soft tissue and poor impulse control." Brinax let out a chuff that sounded like a kettle about to boil. "That's the mistake everyone makes, thinking evolution favors teeth. It doesn't. It favors obsession. And humans, they're made of it." Kavith chuckled low, a sound like distant thunder in a dry canyon. "They're not soldiers," he said. "Not in the way you think. They're storytellers with knives. Every war they fight, they turn into a myth, a warning, a tattoo etched across generations." He tapped the side of his neck where a faded burn mark peeked from beneath his collar. "I saw one drag their own leg behind them for half a click just to throw a grenade under my tank. No backup, no cover, just rage and timing. I watched him smile before the blast hit." Mayun shifted. "So they're suicidal?" "No," Brinax said. "They're committed, big difference." He leaned forward, eyes glowing faint blue in the bar's low light. "You ever study their history? Before spaceflight, they warred with sticks, then swords, then radiation, built machines to fight so they wouldn't have to, then fought over those machines. Their peace is never clean, always like patchwork stitched over old wounds. But when you threaten that peace, when you touch what they love..." He tilted his drink, letting the last drop slide to the bottom. "They don't retaliate, they eradicate." Kavith nodded slowly. "There's a reason no one's occupied Earth." Mayun frowned. "Because it's protected." Kavith laughed so hard his plaiting shifted. "Because no one survived doing it." He held up a clawed finger and started counting off. Threx Dominion. Gone. Tried to harvest their oceans. Humans boiled their fleet alive. Virali Syndicate. Gone. Wanted their moon minerals. Humans collapsed their gate network and stranded them in subspace. Zathari pirates. You remember them? Mayun nodded. They disappeared. Kavith drained his glass. No, they picked a fight. Brinax leaned back, feathers rustling. I once heard a human general say, "We don't start fights, we finish bloodlines." He laughed when he said it. Silence settled for a long beat, just the low thrum of power conduits humming behind the walls and the clink of a bottle being replaced behind the bar. Mayun cleared his throat. So why don't we just leave them alone? Let them have their corner of the stars. Kavith raised a brow. Because one day they'll get curious, or bored, or both, and they'll come to you, not with warships at first, but with trade, stories, partnerships. Brinax picked up the thread. You'll think they're harmless. You'll welcome them, learn from them, drink with them, and then someday someone somewhere will wrong them. Kavith leaned in close. And you'll wake up with fire in your lungs and the sound of their anthem playing on your comms. Mayun looked down at his drink. So they're monsters? No, Brinax said, suddenly softer. Gardeners. Mayun blinked. Gardeners? They build, cultivate, protect. They grow art, technology, philosophy. They love their people, their families, their homes. They weep when dogs die in old films. Brinax's beak twitched in something like a smile. But they will burn your planet to the bedrock if you try to take those things from them. The lights flickered. Outside, a docking alarm sounded as another freighter arrived, groaning through the shields. No one moved. Peace, Kavith said again, staring at the last drop in his glass. Is war taking a break? He looked up at the others. And humans hate to sit still.